some good coffee. Instead of making hot coffee during the summer, I've been doing this like bottled iced cold brew or iced coffee equivalent from the supermarket. And this stuff gets crazy expensive crazy quickly. Probably just because I have an exorbitant amount of coffee a day. Like I probably finished this bottle in like 2 days because I kind of have a caffeine addiction. So I ordered a cold brew maker instead in the hopes that, I could just like grind my own coffee and save some money on the bottled stuff, plus kind of help the environment too. But like most things in life, I realized that too late because it's almost hot coffee season again, because it's basically the end of August. Yeah. Coffee aside, today I want to share 3 hard signs that you're leveling up in your life, that you're actually growing. And the reason why I want to share these signs is because they're actually kind of counterintuitive. Like, if you are experiencing them or you do experience them, they do not feel like you are developing or growing at all. They're counterintuitive in the sense that they can actually even, if anything, make you feel like you're going backwards in life because they don't feel like growth. They're things that I've been experiencing recently that I want you to be aware of, because growth is not a one-size-fits-all. It does not all look the same. It does not all feel the same. And a lot of growing requires growing pains, and it's not clean. It's kind of a little ugly at times. So with that being said, let's get into lesson or sign number 1. All right, so whenever I talk to somebody who is going through a big transformative period in their life, there's always a lot of confusion. They're kind of get in this mode where they're dazed and confused. That on the surface can seem like something that, well, it never feels good to be confused, right? Like to feel like your life is all over the place. That's never gonna feel good no matter what the reason is. But a lot of people will look at that confusion, that disorientation specifically, and be like, look, something's really off here because I don't know how to think about this anymore. I don't really know what's going on here. But the reality is that's actually a really good sign. It's a good sign because it means that what at one point was 100% certain to you, like without a doubt, you're like, this is exactly how I view the world, that's not changing, is now being uprooted. I get this visual of almost like, when you're swimming in the ocean, the sand on the bottom of the ocean floor is pretty still. Nothing's really going on there, but you put your foot down, or you put your hand in that sand and you start shaking things around. And what happens? There's all this sediment, all this sand, all this like dust, ocean dust, so to speak, starts coming up because you're taking what was packed down and firm and you're shaking things up. That's gonna create a mess. That's gonna create confusion. It can be super chaotic and confusing when you're in that stage, but that confusion is necessary. It means that you are now questioning things instead of just accepting things as the status quo, instead of just living your life on autopilot. You're starting to get really curious about the way that you view things, and you're starting to ask big questions of yourself, of the life that you're living, of the way that your life is going, and that is inherently going to create a mess. That is chaos, but that chaos is beautiful. When you're going through that and it's confusing though, you just need to learn how to ground yourself. You don't want to avoid that confusion because that confusion is a sign that you're growing, that you're uprooting things, and that you're really thinking about things, which is great. We definitely don't want to change that, but you also don't want to feel completely lost and inundated in that chaos. So you have to learn how to ground yourself, and this is going to be different for every single person, but for me, some of the tried and true methods that will always ground me are meditating, journaling, doing some yoga, things that keep you in the present moment. And ultimately, what you'll realize by doing those kinds of behaviors is that, yeah, sure, there is chaos around you, but you are separate from it. You are not the chaos. You're simply experiencing it. You gotta love Shawn Mendes, right? Like, I never thought I would say that in a million years, but apparently I love Shawn Mendes. So once you start leveling up in your life and that uprooting process starts to happen, what you'll start to realize is whether you want to or not, you start to outgrow people. It doesn't even need to be relational. It could just be hobbies or things that you used to do with certain groups of people that you're no longer interested in. all this starts to happen. And when you start to not really feel like you get along with people anymore, or you start to feel like people don't understand what's going on with you, it can be counterintuitive because the people around us serve essentially as mirrors to us, right? Like, the way that we perceive ourselves oftentimes is kind of based on the feedback loop that we're getting from other people. And so when we start to change, people pick up on that change. They start to notice that you're acting different. And maybe they're threatened by that. Maybe their own traumas and their own histories with people is that when they feel like they don't get a good read on somebody anymore, they start to get defensive, they start to pull away. Or it could just be as simple as the fact that like you just don't find the same things funny, the things that you used to find enjoyment in, they're no longer things that you're drawn to. Think about it like leveling up in a video game, for example, right? Like you are getting access to these new characteristics, these new strengths, these new levels of yourself, of that character that people around you might not be vibrating with. They might not be resonating with those kinds of levels. You are popping up here. You're naturally gonna have some people fall away from you. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily going backwards. It just means that your connection was here, and all of a sudden you've jumped to here. Not everybody is gonna be able to make that quantum leap with you, and you have to understand that and be okay with that. In that process of leveling up, you are gaining access to new ways of thinking that are going to be amazing, but they're also going to push you. They're going to challenge you to see if you can stand up to the challenge and if you're ready to step up into that new, better version of yourself. Currently 6 o'clock on a Friday night, and I am going to a coffee shop to get some work done because honestly I spend my entire day alone in my apartment because of COVID. I don't know, it's 6 o'clock in the evening, which means that it is prime coffee time. Like, when do I ever stop drinking coffee? That's the real question. It's not a real question though, it's rhetorical. Because no. What is a rhetorical question? I never really figured that out. Like, a rhetorical question is a question that you ask without, like, expecting an answer, but does that mean that there isn't an answer? Because there is an answer to when am I not drinking coffee. The answer is never. How the hell that's so sick? What the hell? Oh my god. Dude, my phone's a portal? Alright, my phone's a portal. As you get closer to leveling up, the universe will start sending you shit tests. So maybe you're learning about overcoming your codependent traits, and the universe will be like, alright, cool, your ex just texted you, what are you gonna do? Like, literally right as you've decided that you're gonna try to learn how to level up and evolve and be like, all right, I'm on my self-love journey, I don't need anybody. Someone comes waltzing in, right? Because the universe starts to play games with you, essentially. They want to see, is this person gonna level up? Are they gonna make those better choices? Or are they gonna fail those tests? Are they gonna make the same choices that they've always made time and time again because that's what's most familiar to them? And so if you start getting these shit tests, right, like old people start coming up in your life, or you start getting more triggered, you start having more trauma responses, it's up to you to decide, what am I going to do with this information? Am I going to fall back on the patterns that I know that are comfortable for me, that even if they're not the healthiest, have provided me some form of safety, and they're comfortable because I'm familiar with them? Or am I going to rise to the challenge? Am I going to try to pass those tests by choosing a different outcome for myself? Leveling up in life, in your relationships, in your career, in your creative projects is never easy, but I think at the end of the day, it's worth it. And ultimately, it is up to you whether or not you grow. It'll always be up to you whether you choose to lean into that change, to seek that discomfort, to push yourself to grow through it, to grow past it, and to overcome those challenges. Or if you want to take the more comfortable, familiar approach and fall back, retreat onto what you know best. Ultimately, there is no right or wrong in this world. It's just the choices that are presented in front of you and what you choose to do with them. With that being said, though, I am going to wrap up the video here. If you guys like the video, please drop the video a like, subscribe to the channel down below. Thank you so much for being here. I love you, and I will talk to all of y'all in the next video. Bye. Great, now that that's done, I can finally go get my coffee. It is 6:30. It is prime caffeine time. Let's go. But I'm gonna put this in here so no one steals my camera.